Hey everyone, this is me, the Undead Viking, and this is Trigger Discipline. However, the game I'm going to be showing to you today is called Gunsword. Basically, the name of the game changed since I actually received my copy of it to show to you. So, yes, I'm going to be referencing a game called Trigger Discipline, but it actually is a game called Gunsword now, and actually here's the picture of Gunsword. Anyway, so Gunsword is a 2 to 4 player game of combat. Each player is going to take on the role of a hero that has, well, gun swords, and and it is played on a grid, and you're going to be moving your players on that grid, and doing different attacks and maneuvers against each other. But it is a very unique game in the way that it is a fairly deterministic process as far as how the combat works, but they're using a very, very unique chess movement process combined with the different combos and actions that can be taken, that I found really, really fun, and a lot of it kind of twisted the whole tactics of these types of games on its ear for me. So let me show you how the game is played, and we'll come back here and I'll tell you a little bit more about why I dug my plays of not Trigger Discipline but Gunsword. Alright, let's go ahead and learn how to play. So, I've gone ahead and set up the game for 2 players. Now, you can play with 3 or 4. With 3, it's still going to be like an all-against-all type of situation, and you can play that way with 4 players as well. But with 4 players, you can, if you want, you can have 2 teams of 2, and I've played that way, and it's kind of fun. So, it's always kind of neat to be playing with another person and working together on your strategies. But just to show you how the game is played, I have set it up for 2 players. Alright, so to begin with, each player is going to pick a hero, and they're going to pick a weapon for that hero. Now, for example, I have Matilda, and you can see that she has these little flintlock sword things, and I've gone ahead and give her those flintlock sabers. Now, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. You can definitely mix and match whatever you like, but I just did that for the purposes of showing you how this works. Now, a couple things you're going to see here. There's some flavor text, doesn't really matter, but these things up here, like this little 12, and then it says a +1, and the 16, and +1, that gives you your stats. This is going to be your momentum that you start with, and that's going to be your health. Health, obviously, is how you stay alive. If you get reduced to 0, you are out of the game and you lose. Momentum determines when you go, and it's also kind of like your energy and when you can do actions, and when you're going to be playing different skill cards out of your hand, they're going to cost you, normally, are going to cost you some momentum. Other than that, like I said, it's just pictures. As far as the art, which is really cool, and then just kind of representation, giving you some immersion with some flavor text. Now, these numbers in the middle here, you actually combine those. Now, you get 11 cards for your weapons, and you get 11 cards for your hero, giving you 22 cards, but you're going to get 8 more cards depending upon these totals in here. So these go repost cards, dodge cards, and breaker cards. And those are located over here. And so in this case, you're going to see we're going to get 3 repost, you're going to get 2 dodge, and we're going to get 3 breaker. And you would just take those 8 cards and you put them into your deck, and you'd shuffle those up. Now, along with those 2, you're going to get a couple of cards that are going to give you some abilities, depending upon the stuff that you have. Matilda has this power where when you take initiative, you may choose a skill card with cost 4 or less and power 4 or less in any of your foes' discard piles and attach it to your duelist card as an insight. Basically, you're stealing a card from somebody. And then you have the ability to play one of your insights as if it was from your hand, so you can kind of steal their attack, steal their ability, and use it later. And she's got a lot of cards in her deck that play off of this ability. So it's just, something that you have. Then this one is kind of neat. It's like a versatility card. It has 2 sides. And, on this side, once per frame, when you play a skill card, you can give that card +1 cost and +1 power. So it costs more to use, but it's going to do more damage. And then, when you do that, you flip it over here, and then now it's -1 cost and -1 power when you use something. So it's just kind of neat how you can flip that card back and forth and do that. Now, I'm just going to show you, we have Haloon, we have this Graviton Sledge. The reason I want to talk about the Graviton Sledge is because, and once again, standard stuff, the Graviton Sledge actually gives you this Graviton Sphere token that you can see right there. And when you do your battles in this game, they do a lot of, they reference chess moves for certain things. They will say rook 3, and that means you can move orthogonally like a rook does, up to 3 spaces. That's what that references. And so like the graviton sphere is basically this, like, you know, this sphere of gravity that that you get to put down like within bishop 1 of your starting spot. So we've put it there. And then if it's next to a person that plays a skill card, that skill gets -1 range to a minimum of 1, because it's like obviously a lot of gravity. It doesn't affect you, but you can do that. And plus you can spend 1 momentum to move it on your turn if you so desire. And you can just move it in any of the directions, because it says jump queen 1, so it can go queen distance 1. And then the ability that we have here for Hulun is type on sight. When you take initiative before you draw cards, reveal the top card of your deck. The first skill card you play this turn gets -X cost, and that's the armor value of whatever cards. So you can reduce the cost of whatever whatever card you're going to use. So, so it's one of those things where it changes up the players, gives you little special abilities, and you know, makes it so like there's asymmetric values going on as far as the different heroes and weapons. And as you combine different heroes and different weapons together, you'll learn certain combos and what have you that will work better than others, and you'll just kind of learn the game. Something I've always liked about games like this. All right, so as I said, you're going to get this, you know, big 22 card deck. And if you ever, you know, and then you're going to add 8 of those cards. If you ever run out of cards, you just shuffle up your discard pile and you start it up. This isn't a game where you die if you run out of cards. Except for on the first turn, what you're going to do, the first thing you do is you're going to have a hand of 6 cards to start with, and then except for on the very first turn of the game, you're going to draw 2 cards off your deck. And I'm not going to go through that process just because I'm, you know, I want to show you like different cards and their abilities and what have you. So, and then what you're going to be doing is then, depending upon whoever has the highest momentum, is going to go ahead and get to take the first action. So as you notice, like we have a momentum of 14 versus a momentum of 13. And so Hulun is going to be able to take the first action of the game. And so, you know, you're going to draw your cards, and you don't have to take an action if you don't want to. You can choose to rest, which means you just don't do anything. You can yield your turn to somebody else, to the other players if you want to. That's you know, you can just pass, if you will. The big thing is, if like you rest and somebody else and everybody else rests, that resets the round. And the way that works is that as you're moving around and as you're, you know, going this way and that way and everything on the board and doing your actions, inevitably one person's going to run out of momentum. And when that happens, you're going to be forced into a reset. And when you reset, what you're going to do is you're going to draw back up to 6 cards, and you're going to place all the characters back into their starting positions, and then you're going to start up again. So, you know, no matter what, and I that's actually a really good rule, because of the fact that, you know, you when you reset, you automatically gain 10 momentum back, so you have some momentum you can do stuff with. And you're put within arm's reach of each other. So, like, you're not going to have combats that last forever because you're so far away from each other and you're not, like, chasing each other down, if you will. So, I do like that reset part of the game. But regardless, on your turn, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be looking at your cards, and you're going to be playing a card. Now, cards have, like, you know, text telling you what they do and things like that. Yeah, you know, they will say skill cards on them. You can see it says so right there. Like the other different cards over here are these counters, and I'll talk about those in just a little bit. But the cost up here, this is your momentum cost up here. So if I wanted to play the Gravity Well card, it would cost me 2 momentum. And if you play this card, like you can see, it says deal 1 direct damage to each foe adjacent to your Graviton Sphere. Deal 1 direct damage to each adjacent foe. So, you know, like, so 1, you do damage to the person that's adjacent to your sphere, and if something was actually adjacent to you, you do damage, and that's like your combo. And so you go through, if you did the ability, you'd go through the process of doing that. Now you'll notice down here this has no power because it isn't really a direct attack. It isn't something that you're going to be, you know, technically processing or doing at that particular turn. But what you do have is you have like things like this, and these are, the gravimetric blast. So this is, a little more involved. So the combo, if you play this one, it's going to, you put it down, and normally what happens when you put a card down, what happens is that your opponent has the option, if they want to play a breaker of some sort, and which is these it's not a breaker, a counter of some sort, which are these, and they could be something as simple as doing a dash knight. Now, a dash knight just means that dash means basically that you're just moving, and knight means you're going to be moving as a knight does in chess. I should mention, and this is a very important rule about this game, is that when you do move as a knight in this game, you do not get to move one, then two, like you would think. Like you have to do a move 2 and 1. It's the way the game is set up, and that's the process that you have to go through. So in other words, you can't go 1 and then 2. You have to go 2 and 1, or 2 and 1, or what have you. You have to process it like that. So just keep that in mind if you have a knight situation. So here you have a jump bishop 3. Now, what jump means is that, things like the graviton sphere is like a block. It's something you can't get through. You can't walk through it. And I should mention, even though you see these little steps here, you can't leave the arena. So if you did this action, like let's just say we did this, and we asked them if they wanted to do a counter. And the thing is, if you're playing with other players too, they can all do a counter. Depending upon where they are with their momentum. And as far as like which person can do what. And so if they did a dash knight, like they knew they were going to be they possibly get attacked, they could use that. There are certain things like at the breaker, at the end of this frame, and like what I mean frame is like this whole action of doing this. It's like a frame of the movie, so to speak. You gain amount of momentum equal to the health that you lose this frame. So you're going to take some damage, but you're going to gain some momentum, and so you're going to have more action possibilities on your turn. And then like riposte, it says shoot queen 3, hit. The target may choose to lose 3 or all of their, 3 momentum, or all of their momentum to reduce this card's power to 2. So normally you'd hit them and do 2 damage with this, but they could choose to lose all their momentum and not take any damage if they so desire. And so those are obviously, powerful, but they do have costs, as you can see. If you want to use them, it does cost you momentum to use those abilities. But anyway, so here we go. So what we do is jump bishop 3, then slash rook 4. So notice slash and dash are two things. Dash is not an attack, it's just a move. But slash is. So here you have this jump bishop 3. So we can go up, so we can go 1, 2, 3, and that would only be 2, but we can definitely just go to that process. And now we can say slash rook 4, which then now you get to move as a rook 4 spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, and because we've gone through the other spot that the other person is in, and it's a slash, we're going to hit that particular person, and then jump to space adjacent to your graviton sphere. Now, if I was worried about them shooting me or something, I could go ahead and jump to that spot, and that would be the combo for that action. It would cost me 4 momentum to do that, so I'm going to have to go ahead and reduce it down to 10, but now I've done possibly 4 damage to to my opponent. Now, if they didn't do like a dodge to get out of the way, so they could avoid getting hit, maybe or something like that, they do have the possibility of using the armor abilities they have in the cards in their hand. Now, cards will show these little armor tokens over here that will reduce damage, and you can see there are 2, and I should be able to find one with 3, and I should be able to find one with 1. So if you want to discard a card, you show that card to reduce the damage. Let's say when Matilda would show this one with 2 shield on it, they'd use that 2, and they reduce that damage by 2, and so they go down to the 15. And now you have a situation where you have I have a momentum of 10, my opponent has a momentum of 13, they get to go. And I'm not going to keep going through each and every round of this, but like, I love timed mechanisms. I just really, really like this in games. I like the whole process of, like, taking small little actions to set yourself up, and then so you can have a bigger action and use up your momentum, and like for a big giant attack like we had with this gravimetric blast. So, if we have an ability in here, and the thing is, remember, she has that ability to take these cards. If we played this, she has the ability for the auto deck to, like, take this and then be able to use it against us later. So, of course, she could do that, on her turn. But you could, like, here is, like for example, like, like, here's like a big move, like where it is, like you have a jump to the center space and slash knight. Now, I wanted to show you this card because basically I wanted to show you this, where you can see this in kind of like a red text here where it says command skill. If you use a card for this command skill, it doesn't cost you anything to use it, but you still, so this one you gain 2 momentum, and then you discard the card. So, I mean, you do have those things as well. But, so on your turn, like, you might do something small, like, maybe you would just, like, here you have, like roll call. It's only got 1, so it only cost us 1 momentum. So we go down to 12. We'd still have the 10. It says jump rook 2. Well, so we could use that ability, and the next insight you play this turn gets +2 power. So, that's actually, pretty good, because we're going to put that down. So we're going to jump 2 like so. We're in range, and we get to go again. And so admittedly, I'm digging through the deck here just to find, like, good cards that will, do cool damage here. But here, so then we have things like Deadline, where now we can say slash rook 3. And so this is going to cost us 4 momentum. It's going to take us down to 8, and so then we're going to slash down. Now, here's a situation where you have 2 people in the same spot, but that can't occur. So, what's going to happen is that you're going to have a push. And when you push, this player can choose, like, when the person that moved into the spot gets to pick a direction, like basically queen 1, where the other person will go, and so they can just push them aside. That's the only time when 2 people can, like, briefly exist in the same spot. But we can do that 4 damage. Maybe we don't have any good armor cards. We take those 4 damage and so forth. And you should have a pretty good idea then of how the game is going to progress. Just remember that if all of you decide to rest, like I'm going to rest this turn, and the other person rests this turn, that's when you're going to do a reset, and you're going to go back to your starting spots. And make sure I put in the right spot. So you go back to your starting spots. Everybody, if would get 10 more momentum. Nobody probably would have done that with, like, it being it is. And then you're going to start up again. Plus, I should say that also you have the option every turn, like, you have the ability to discard 1 card after you take your action and then draw 1. So, like, you can try to, like, get, like, cards with good armor in you, or count, like, these types of cards, the counter cards in your hand while you're preparing to be attacked by the other player. So the game is just going to progress back and forth until one person defeats the other person in combat, and once they've done that, obviously they've won the game. I've always enjoyed games like this. I enjoy the whole process of thinking, like, ahead and trying to, like, come up with the right moves and getting myself set up to do, a good combo of different cards. And as I said, I really, really like anything with this time mechanism. I always really, really enjoy having time as a resource, and I really like how they transpose that into this game. But let me talk about that and more in my final thoughts. Alright, thank you very much for taking the time to watch and learn how to play Gunsword. Ooh, I almost screwed that up. As I said, it has this really funky, fun chess-like basis that I really liked. Obviously they didn't have to put that in there. They could just say, move 3 spaces orthogonally, or 2 spaces diagonally, or 3 spaces in any direction, or what have you. But I thought it was cool that they actually referenced it as those types of movements, and I just it just added a little bit more to I don't know, not immersion, so to speak, but it just kind of like because it harkened back to my old chess club days or whatever, and I kind of liked the inclusion of that. Now, there's just lots of things I like about games like this. First of all, I'm a sucker for these types of games right now because of the fact that my daughter and I play a lot of them, and she and I really enjoy these things, and I really like the puzzle of the movement. I like the puzzle, like the getting within range. To be able to do your different actions, setting things up, knowing what your cards that you have in your hand, and trying to kind of maybe save a couple, 2, 3 cards that that if you can get like a certain amount of momentum higher than person, like 4 or 5 or 6 momentum, you can play those cards in succession and have a lot of success with those. I did find playing with 3 or 4 people was a lot of fun just because of the chaotic process of it, and I use the word chaotic in a very, very good way. I did like how frenzied the combat was. I did like how you never really, the whole combat area felt really cramped with all 4 players in that little box. Like a knife fight in a telephone booth, if you will. So I enjoyed that. Now, and I've said this many times when we were talking about the game, but I really, really, really liked the whole timing thing. I like games that have time as a resource, and I like the process of the decision to just blow it all and just go for go gonzo and try to blast your opponent, or you kind of bide your time a little bit, let them get kind of tired out, so to speak, and then so you can just slam a bunch of cards down and do a quick little and have repeated actions, and I like that. I like that process, and it's fun to kind of play with that seesaw of the battle. So if you're looking for a cool 2-player game with a pretty cool theme and some pretty awesome art, I would strongly suggest you think about picking this one up. And if you want to have, as I said, that fun little knife fight in the telephone booth with you and 3 of your other friends, I think you really have a lot of fun with not Trigger Discipline, but Gunsword. So there you go. If you have any questions about it, please ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. As always, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. And until next time, I'm the Undead Viking, telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. Alright, bye-bye.